now calling to order a regular meeting of City Council, Tuesday, July 8th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Councilwoman Rogan-C.
Here.
Councilman Dwyer.
Here.
Councilwoman McGee.
Here.
Councilman Boyke.
Here.
Councilman Noonan.
Present.
Councilman Lafferty.
Here.
Councilwoman Moore is present. We have a quorum.
Next item.
Next item is adoption of the consent agenda. So moved with discussion.
Support Lafferty.
Discussion, Ms. Moore.
Yes, I would like to add as 4L, adoption of a resolution approving extension and increase of award for cleaning and inspection of PPE for the fire department. And as item 4M, approval of the IRS Form 720 and the IRS PCORI fees requirement, and approve the issuance of a $13,880 check to be sent to the IRS.
Makers of the motion accept all of those amendments.
Without objection.
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yes.
To consent or regular?
Consent item? Consent agenda?
Yes.
That's, we don't talk about it then.
Okay.
Just
I don't
regular.
want it. It's the next one.
Okay. I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes?
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Rogan C is yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item, adoption of the agenda. So moved with discussion.
Support Lafferty.
Discussion, Ms. Moore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Add 11B, Lipicoli versus Warren settlement as item 12C. Discussion in re boards and commissions, and 12C, ordinance updates.
Madam President, when she's done.
Anything further, Madam Secretary?
No.
Oh, are you first?
Discussion.
Oh, I would like to add
Discussion.
Yeah, discussion.
discussion item regarding task force and commissions. Would that be 12D? I don't know.
It will. It will be
Okay.
12D. Task force.
And
Mr. Noonan?
you're done, Melissa?
Yes,
Okay.
I am.
I'd like to add, I think under council business, I'd like to discuss council business in general.
You have to have an item.
I have to have an item, okay. I have actually two items then. I have, 1 second, please. Come on now. Okay. Too many documents up. The possible civic center development and the city's lobbyist.
I think that's already on the agenda, is it not?
For an RFP, it's already on.
So there is an item about the lobbyist on the agenda?
Right.
Do you want to discuss it then, or you want a separate item?
I think I'd like a separate item also.
Okay, that would be 12F. Those would be 12E, discussion regarding civic center, and 12F, city lobbyist. That's separate from the council lobbyist.
Sure,
Oh, right?
yep,
Okay.
okay.
Any other discussion? Are the makers of the motion comfortable with those additions?
Yes.
Without objection.
Okay, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes?
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Rogan C is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 6A, calendar of pending matters, motion to receive and file.
Support Lafferty.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 7A, approval of the bills of the general revenue fund, so moved.
Support Lafferty.
Discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Rogan C. is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 7B, approval of the bills of the water and sewer system. So moved.
Support Dwyer.
Discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Rogan C. is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is audience participation, agenda items only.
Audience members who'd like to address council this evening can get a form to the left. Is there, no one, okay. Last call for agenda item audience. Okay, next item.
Next item is announcements, Madam Chair.
Ms. Moore.
Thank you. On a sad note, Marie Ferris Michaels passed away last week. She was 100 years old. She was the mother of Chief Assistant Attorney Mary Michaels. And if everyone has been paying attention the last couple of years, Mary has been a very, very devoted daughter, caring for her mother, and everybody should be so lucky to have a daughter like her. Our sincere condolences go out to Mary, her sister Denise, her brother Tony, and I would ask for a moment of silence for such a beautiful life. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Mr. Lafferty.
Thank you. On Friday, June 27th, I suppose this is on a heavier note, the Warren Parks and Recreation held their first ever bench press competition. And it was an exciting day. In the men's division, Nolan Ionta participated in the 14 to 18 age range, benching 315 pounds. 19 to 34 awarded to Dre Wines at 380 pounds. The 35 to 54 range, Ryan Cathy at 375 pounds, and the 55 plus, Adam Stevenson with an impressive 340. In the women's division, I was surprised to learn my own daughter took first in the 14 to 18 age range at 120 pounds.
Congrats.
And 19 to 34 age range, Sophia Nordwayne at 45 pounds. So congratulations to all the winners. And it's, if it's wasn't clear before, that's why I've stopped asking her to clean her room. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Hearing and seeing none. Next item.
Next item is 10A, which is a public hearing which was held and tabled on June 24th, 2025, consideration and adoption of a resolution to approve the demolition of a house and garage located at 21065 Dofer through the nuisance abatement process.
Motion to remove from the table?
Support.
This is a vote to remove the item from the table. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Rogan C. is a yes. Item is removed from the table.
Motion to approve with discussion?
Support.
Thank you. Discussion, Mr. Lafferty.
Through the chair to Mr. Lizay.
Hello, good evening, Council.
Good evening, sir. At the last time we spoke of this, the council was ready to move forward, but the home was occupied, and so this was referred to the city attorney's office. Has any progress been made relative to the ownership of the home?
I have not seen any progress or any change since the last time we've met 2 weeks ago. Obviously, with the passing of Ms. Michael's mother, I haven't had a contact with her yet about what the plan is to relocate the occupant or what we're gonna do with this.
Okay.
Obviously, it's an unusual situation. We've never had this where we had somebody trying to stay in a home this bad,
All right,
trying to remain in there. But this house is very unsafe.
of course.
We have holes in the roof. We have electricity there in this house with somebody living there. This is disaster waiting to happen. So I don't know what the next move is, but it's definitely a dangerous situation.
Mhm. Thank you, sir. Through the chair to Ms. Pierce, has there been any progress in the city attorney's office that you're aware of?
I wish I could answer that. I know it wasn't assigned to me. It certainly could have been assigned to someone else to start eviction proceedings. If it hasn't, I can make sure it gets assigned tomorrow morning.
Okay. All right, thank you. Madam Chair, Mr. Schroeder.
Yes, I did speak with Ms. Michaels about this last week when we were going over some other matters. This just happened to come up. And so she had mentioned possibly seeking a court order to remove this individual, but also simultaneously reaching out to social services in the area to make sure this person can be placed somewhere. So we kind of left it at that. I know she had a lot on her mind and a lot going on, but that was what we had discussed.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'm going to make a motion that we retable this.
Support.
And I would suggest probably 2 weeks is not enough time for the court order proceedings to the August 12th meeting.
Okay, there's a tabling motion. I will call the question. Mr. Lafferty?
Yes to table.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes to table.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Brogan C. is a yes. Item is tabled. Next item.
Next item is 11A, request to approve multiple neighborhood enterprise zone certificates for the Baker and Associates Realty Group LLC, consideration and adoption of a resolution. So moved with discussion.
Support Lafferty with discussion.
Ms. McGee said support. Discussion, Ms. Moore.
Thank you. Is there someone here from the legal staff that could explain what a neighborhood enterprise zone certificate is, please, so that the public knows? No, she doesn't.
Back in 2000, well, good evening, sorry. Back in 2017, this council approved the Patriot Place zone for NEZ certificates. It's a tax abatement, which the 2017 resolution said it could go up to 8 years. It basically gives people with lower incomes an opportunity to purchase a house and save on taxes while they get themselves settled. So I don't know why I can't think of what NEZ stands for right now.
Is this like payment in lieu of, excuse me?
Yeah, you-
Neighborhood enterprise zone.
Okay, and is this similar to, payment in lieu of taxes, like a pilot program?
No. It's a state of Michigan incentive that local municipalities can adopt. It's just a tax abatement.
Because I'm
It's a-
wondering, because the Patriot Place development was a payment in lieu of taxes at the time. That was 96 properties or 49 properties several years ago that project was abandoned. So I'm interested why the Patriot Place was brought up again.
That's the NEZ area that the council approved back in 2017 is called Patriot Place.
Right, that was I think before all of us, but,
Council approved a couple meetings ago, maybe 2 months ago, the NEZ certificates for the MacArthur properties, which CDBG is building.
right.
So this would be the same idea. I do have the Realtor, Ms. Baker, here to answer any other questions as far as the properties, the income level. They're getting a grant from the state of Michigan, which will mandate certain income levels, that the homes can't cost more than a certain amount to qualify for lower income buyers.
I'm more interested now in the city's part.
Okay.
What that approval process, why we would grant these certificates for this property, what was the approval process, what were the requirements? Was there a panel that went through this? Who approved it? What, what department was tasked with that?
The district was approved, so
By whom?
by council, back in 2017.
This district that we're dealing with
Yes.
today? Okay.
Yes, and I mean, it's
In
bigger.
2017, did you say?
Correct.
Okay, so that was the Patriot Place?
Yes.
Okay.
Ultimately, any homeowner who lives in the district, whether it be a new purchase or rehab, can apply for the tax abatement for a certain period of time, and
Okay.
council can grant it for up to 8 years.
So we did that in 17?
Yes.
For 8 years. This is
Yes.
25, so,
So any home in that district can apply for the neighborhood enterprise zone tax exemption, or tax abatement, and ultimately, the assessor has to approve that it's in the zone. It then has to go to the clerk to make sure all the documents and the application is in place. It then has to come before you to approve it, and then it goes to the state of Michigan ultimately for final approval.
okay. I'll ask maybe Ms. Baker, because I want to make sure that this is not going to be none of this will be rental homes. These will be homes to be purchased.
Oh, absolutely.
Correct? Okay. That's the only thing I'm done. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Okay, any other discussion?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Lafferty?
Thank you. Through the chair to Ms. Pierce. So, Ms. Moore asked a couple of the questions, but I was curious on the exemption certificates, to piggyback on one of her last questions about the rentals. How is the city going to ensure that for the next 8 years, once these homes become occupied, that clock begins on the 8 years, that these homes do not turn into a rental property? What are the restrictions that are being placed in the certificate?
Pursuant to law, it can't be a rental property.
Ever? Oh, sorry.
Understood.
Sorry.
For the next 8 years, I understand that. That per Public Act 147,
Yes.
you can't do that.
I guess I don't understand your question then. How are we going to ensure that it's not being rented?
Yes. How is the city enforcing the certificate? We have IFTs that we give to, larger companies, and they have a laundry list of conditions and terms that they have to meet, otherwise we can pull that back. So what are we doing in this case for similar certificates?
I mean, they have to meet all the requirements, and if it becomes a rental and it's no longer a primary residential exemption, the certificate can be revoked.
That it still doesn't answer the question, though, as to is the rental division, are these homes, is it notated in BSNA? Is this something that would hit the assessor's office?
It's an entirely separate tax roll. Any property that has an NEZ certificate is an entirely separate tax roll.
All right, so, and what I'm looking for is, that we don't find out, a year into this, into any one of these homes, and it's not just these homes in question, it's anything any properties within the NEZ that have applied and were successful going through this process, that they're being flagged properly in the system, and that we're not, I don't know if it's something proactive that we need to do on our end from the city side, and review and ensure that none of these homes are being rented, because then they would forego their tax exemption.
Correct, and I mean, renters are supposed to register their property as a rental. Do they always? No. But, I mean, I would presume there's a series of checks and balances through the assessing office, through the rental office, through the different offices at City Hall that would flag, hey, this is no longer a primary residence. The person who's listed as the owner is, well, forget that. I suppose
Yeah.
they still could own it and be renting it, but.
That is
Yeah,
my
go ahead.
my primary concern. And I'm sorry, Ms. Baker, this is a legal question
No.
on behalf of the city. You're not responsible for this. And I guess I cannot make an assumption. I don't have that luxury, and that's why I want to ensure that the city has the protections in place, that if we're going to give an NEZ cert, that we are going to follow through and ensure that those certs are being respected, and that, you know, if we're going to give an exemption to any homeowner, that they have rules to follow legally.
Well, once the properties, I mean, this is a new project, the building hasn't even started, but once the properties are sold, the exemption will be passed on to the home buyer. They are responsible for for providing a certain number of documents, to the city to keep qualified under that exemption.
Okay. All right, I'll probably end up doing a follow-up with your office. And I want to understand the connection between assessing and rental, and to understand any other NEZ certs already in effect, how we're identifying those, just to ensure that we already don't have this problem.
There's only two as of now.
Okay.
The MacArthur properties that you previously approved. This would be the next batch, and hopefully the area continues to be developed, but there is an entirely separate tax roll, and I mean, I can assure that assessing and rental, if they get a rental application, or that rental has a list of the NEZ tax roll, which at this point isn't that large. It
Right.
shouldn't, I mean, it could become larger, but at this point, it's not going to be that difficult to manage.
Yeah, I would hope it becomes larger. It covers 1,422 acres
Yes,
of contiguous parcels. It has a great potential, so this is a good start,
yes.
a very good start. The only other item, I guess, and the clock does not start with our approval tonight. The clock starts on the exemption certificate once the home is built and it becomes owner occupied. Am I correct on that?
I don't want to misspeak, but I believe it becomes effective once the state of Michigan approves it.
Approved, but that would be by the homeowner's application.
No.
Okay, because,
Am I saying something wrong? You want to correct me? Go ahead.
Yeah, is it okay?
Ms. Baker, yeah,
Okay.
go right ahead.
Yeah, so it goes to the state for an approval, but it doesn't become effective until the homeowner applies. So basically, I do the initial process to get it approved through you guys. It goes to the state for approval. Once the home is built and it's sold, then the homeowner then has to apply for the NEZ to start.
Okay, and that's what I wanted to clarify tonight, is that we're not starting that clock tonight. It's, if your project isn't built for a year, and that home isn't occupied for 3 months after that, that's a year and 3 months of time that is not being wasted on a certificate sitting in a drawer.
Correct.
Thank you.
And my apologies.
Yep.
This is all a new process for us. We're kind of learning as we go along. Oh my gosh, there was one thing I wanted to add. I just forgot.
Madam President?
That's what I wanted to,
Okay.
clarify, because it is somewhat new. We haven't done a whole lot of work on this, and the
Correct.
original project fell through. So, thank you.
Ms. McGee?
I want to ask questions for the owner. Now, I live in a area where there is an association in the area, and I don't know if you're going to require that to have or it's going to be set up as an association. But if so, our requirements is that we read instructions on what we can and cannot do. We cannot rent out our property, so we have to sign a document to state that before anyone moving this property as an owner, you cannot rent out this property without the approval of the association. Will you consider having something like that, or you will be having something like that happening in your area?
Well, so because of the funding source that we're using, it's not required. The state of Michigan has a mandate that the property has to be sold for home ownership, and it has to be sold to a qualified buyer, so low to moderate income. If they were to move, then that house has to then again be sold. There will be a deed restriction in place that prevents that. So it cannot be a rental, it has to be homeownership.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President?
Mr. Noonan. Mr. Noonan, go ahead.
Yeah, so, the lady, Ms. Pierce, the lady that you're standing with, I didn't hear you introduce her, but I'd like to know who you are and what it takes for people to take advantage of this if they haven't already been aware? Or does everyone who could take advantage of this, are they already somehow, have they already been made aware?
When you say take advantage of this, are you first Faye Baker with Baker and Associates Realty Group? When you say take advantage of this, what is the this that you're speaking of?
The tax break?
Yes, so when they purchase the home or engage in purchasing the home, those documents will have to be signed because they have to be aware that the tax break is only for 8 years and is not in perpetuity, so
Right.
we do have, there's a document that they have to sign.
So, Ms. Baker, you're a developer, is that correct?
That is correct.
And so those would be with new-built homes. Is the whole area, do you have control of the whole area that this refers to?
I do not. I have control over 2 acres that is off of Peters, formerly 22230 Peters.
Okay. Yeah, well, I was there at your groundbreaking or whatever, your ceremony, and that looked pretty great. But so, Ms. Pierce, the people could buy homes that are already in that area if they could figure out where those were. And I'm curious, is that what this paperwork was? No, you don't know. How would we know where those properties are?
My apologies, I don't have the boundary map with me at this time.
Okay. Well, if there's any way that can be determined and sent to council, I think that would be great. It seems like a lot of people would want to know in order to take advantage of this wonderful opportunity to get a tax break. I understand that they have to be under a certain level of income.
Yes. For me or her?
Not necessarily for the NEZ certificate itself. For Ms. Baker's homes that she is building, there are some income requirements.
Okay, so people don't even have to be under a certain level of income in order to buy houses outside of Ms. Baker's properties?
Correct.
Okay, that sounds pretty great. I'd love to know about it, and thank you for indulging me. I appreciate it. I yield.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Madam Secretary.
Thank you. So, Ms. Baker, you own 2 acres at this point, or your business or whatever owns the 2 acres, right?
Yeah.
You now are responsible for taxes on that property, correct?
Yes.
And you will be responsible for the taxes until
I no longer own it.
each parcel as it goes,
Yes.
right? So if you build one home, that person gets a certificate, they take over the tax burden, basically, and then you would pay for the 95% of the rest of it until all the properties are developed.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes?
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Rogan C is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 11B. I'll just make the motion. Motion, the City Council authorizes legal counsel to proceed with the strategy recommended by the city's legal counsel and approves of a settlement on terms discussed in closed session. Upon execution of the settlement documents, City Council authorizes payment by wire transfer to ASU Group upon receipt of a copy of this resolution, a request for payment from the Insurance Division, and a copy of the invoice for payment. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
We'll call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes?
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Brogan C is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 12A, consideration and adoption of a resolution to approve extension of agreement with Capital Relations for Governmental Affairs Services and request administration to issue a request for proposal for governmental affairs services. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
Discussion?
Yes?
Mr. Noonan?
I just wanted to sound off on why I'm not in favor of extending this contract. To me, it seems that this has been a sweetheart deal, $76,600 a year. And as far as I know, we didn't hear from the guy in the first year. Then that absence was excused because the council apparently missed the boat, and somehow we are supposed to ask him to go to work for us. He doesn't just do it. And if we don't ask, he just skates. This is not only, I mean, even if I overlook that, what's to keep that from happening in the future? How are we managing that? It's a lot of money. If we're not going to use him, I'd rather not have him at all, right? Why waste $76,000 if we're not getting benefit out of it? It seems to me that it would have been great if I had known, if we all had known how we could find out what was available from the state in that year and encouraged him to go after those things. But I don't know how we would do that, how we would know what was available unless he was communicating with us. And I did try to get together with him multiple times, found that he was basically incommunicado, and I don't get it. I don't get why we would extend the contract, so I intend to vote no. I hope others will join me. I
Thank you,
yield.
Thank you, Mr. Noonan.
Madam Chair.
Ms. McGee, then Ms. Moore.
I, along with Councilman Noonan, tried to get in contact with him. I have not met him as of yet. We had a meeting with, we were setting up a meeting with myself along with Mr. Dryer, our Councilman Dryer. And then we tried to meet up in April, and our schedule just conflict. But I wanted to just really set aside some time to really talk to him about what he's doing and what he's going to do. But I remember, President, that you asked and requested that we get a monthly update from the lobbyists, and we still have not received that information as of yet. I have not gotten it. We have not received
You're
it.
referencing a report that Mike sends to all of their clients. What I was asking for is the work that they do for us. I've never received it.
We never received it. I looked at my emails today, see if I received any reports, and I had not received it as of yet.
They have sent them, and they delineate who they've met with and what the meetings are about. They've sent them to everybody.
Has everyone received it?
What's that?
Have you received reports from the lobbyists?
Specific to the city.
From Mike?
The specific to the city, not the general Lansing update or municipal.
I've received one. I don't know.
Those?
Tell you exactly when it was, but if I could speak, Madam
Yeah,
Chair?
Ms.
You-
Moore, after Ms.
Yes,
McGee, and then
I
Mr.
yield.
Boyke.
Mr. Boyke,
Okay,
go.
Go ahead.
I don't know where the breakdown is
Okay.
with you, but I probably met with him 8 to 10 times already. Returns my phone calls promptly. I have a lot of questions, and sometimes it's a simple question. And they're doing a lot of work. At least I'm getting answers. And an update, I make it a point to ask, you know, what's happening with our grant for courts? What about the other stuff, appropriations? And I get answers every time. And I also ask them, what could I do to help it? And like I said, I've got prompt calls back every time, and we've had meetings, and I can't say anything better about the guy.
Madam Chair. Going back to the first year, I believe Ms. Rogensee brought Shannon in and worked on appropriations requests the first year we were on council.
I don't think he ever came in.
He
I
did, he was working on things, and, because he worked on, I know for sure he worked on the wastewater treatment plant, because I was very upset about it, because at the time, I was not in favor of that request. But you did bring him in, and he was working on requests from the city that first year. I was not aware of it until much later, and that's when I suggested that we meet and come up with a strategy of things we were interested in accomplishing, and that's why I set up the meeting. So that's the first year. I've met with several legislators, the Speaker of the House we've had meetings with, in constant communication. We've had meetings with council, with county people, we've had meetings, other representatives, and we have a lot going on right now. The contract we have can be, either party can end the contract. Mr. Schroeder, it's 30 days maybe? That it can be ended. You ask, and then I would request then that the city put together an RFP. In the meantime, we let the contract continue, and we start, RFP is gonna take a long time. It's gonna take 6 or 8 months probably, you know, because takes a long time. So I don't wanna have a break in service where we don't have anyone covering those things we have in the hopper right now. So that,
That makes sense. Madam President, once,
Ms. Moore, you
yeah,
finish?
yeah, and I brought up, you know, this is our
Sure.
first meeting after
Mr.
the
Noonan.
new
So-
fiscal year.
that's good. And I really had thought that the council had decided that this position should go out to bid on an RFP. And so I'm glad to hear you talking about it.
Well, this is what this is the resolution, is to ask the city to create an RFP.
But it's an extension for a year, isn't it?
It's an extension for a year, but we can end that at any time. If we have an RFP in 5 months and we choose someone else, we can end that contract with Capital anytime we want. Either party can end that contract with no penalty.
Okay,
We always could.
okay.
And that same price has been paid for over 20 years. We've paid the same fee to
Madam
whoever the
Chair?
lobbyist was. Thank you.
Ms. Moore?
Hmm?
Mr. Boyke?
Put a lot of work into this. And if another firm came in right now, they would be totally lost. And I don't want to start over. It's continuing. Like I said, I don't know what the problem is. If you want, I'll call them for you, set up a meeting with you. I don't know. And I'm not gonna answer for him what he told me. But obviously, there's a communication breakdown. And if I can make it better, I'll put it together. I'm not saying you're right, I'm not saying he's right,
Right,
but obviously, there's a problem.
right.
And again, I don't want to start over. For me to start over with all the people we met with, and it's continuing, would just shut down the whole program. I mean, this year's appropriations, it's coming up very soon, and we'll miss that window bringing a new company in. They don't give out their appropriations all year long. They just recessed. They were working on the school budget, which I knew about. They tried to get that done. I don't know if they finished it or not. But then they're gonna work on the appropriations. And for someone to come in now and basically shotgun it, it wouldn't work. And like I said, I won't,
Okay,
I can't do it that way.
okay.
I'll yield back.
Thank you.
Madam President?
Ms. McGee?
My biggest concern is that although you're getting communications with him, we have not received anything. If Madam President requested that we get a monthly report, we should be receiving that in our email. I checked my emails, I have not received it. We requested a RFP months ago to be put in place. Months ago. So the year is almost, if we're at least 3 or 4 months ago into it. So if we're gonna extend it for a year, we should at least cut it down by 6 months. Because we already requested an RFP months ago.
Was that a majority?
Yes, we all voted on it.
No, we did.
We
Ms.
did it.
Melody has the floor.
I'm done.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, Madam President,
Mr. Noonan?
I'm fine with having a reasonable extension. I don't see a need for a year. maybe it would be good to have it after the appropriations are over, so that we're in the next cycle. But I can't see the responses that I've had aren't commensurate with keeping him. And I'm sorry to hear that other people think he's so great. I wish I had spotted that, but I don't see it at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Noonan.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Lafferty.
To Mr. Noonan, to your question about the term of the contract, a year extension is the basic. It's the least amount that you would typically go for between two parties. So if you have, if we already were in the process and we were narrowing this down, and Mr. Treppa from purchasing was saying, we're 2 or 3 months in, I would say, let's give a 6-month renewal, which is an entirely short amount of time. But in this case where we have not even started writing the RFP and we're several months out, a year is standard. And as Ms. Moore indicated, we have a termination clause, which I'm very comfortable with. If for any cause whatsoever, we can terminate this contract and with a notice sent 30 days ahead of the termination date. So I'm very comfortable with that. The extension of a year really has no bearing on this process. Since we have an RFP, we're doing the same thing in the resolution. We're enacting two things. We're extending for a year and we're issuing an RFP, a request for RFP. So you're getting both, but a 1-year extension is the minimum. And with that safety net, as we've talked about before on previous contracts, that we can exit at any time. Does that help?
I think it helps, Madam President. I would like to see a lobbyist firm that would be communicating with all of us well, and I would like to know that was going to happen if I approved this.
Yeah.
And right now, I'm getting the sense that maybe the council overall, majority prefers to keep this firm indefinitely.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, Mr. Noonan, my question to you was contractually. Did what I offered help clarify the situation with the terms of a 1-year contract at minimum?
Oh, thank you.
I'm not talking about your questions of quality with the vendor
Right.
and, satisfaction here. I'm simply asking if you had any other questions relative to the term of the 1-year extension.
Right, well, you're saying that it could be canceled by either party at any time also. But I don't know that this council would terminate it prior to a year. Do I?
If we went, Madam Chair, if we're going for RFP,
Right,
and it's determined during the RFP process that ABC lobbying firm is the best choice and they're
Right.
selected, then we would vote on that contract.
Right.
If that receives an affirmative majority,
Right.
then we would then, at the same meeting,
Okay.
issue a letter of termination for 30 days out from that date,
okay,
saying that we no longer require the services of our current lobbying firm.
okay. That sounds agreeable at that point. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion?
Madam President,
Ms. McGee.
my concern is, do we not have an RFP already in place from the previous contract? And if we do, then why would it take a year? If we decide to terminate it at any time within that year, why would it take a year to put out an RFP and give someone who would, bid on this RFP within, let's say, a 6-month period? If you can answer
Yeah,
that.
Madam Chair, there was never an RFP for lobbying services ever in the history. When Art Miller retired from the Senate, he was appointed by council. I think I was on council at the time, wasn't it? I can't remember. There was an RFP? Okay. Oh, you were? Okay, you explain. I don't remember it.
I was a young attorney in the attorney's office, and they said, would you like to sit on the RFP for lobbying services? And the city took a number of bids. The interviews were actually in this building, and I remember it vividly, even though it's been 20-some years. I think it was 2003 or 2004. And it came back to council, and Art Miller, we knew the lobbyist, the former senator, but he was actually part of a lobbying group, okay, and it was called Leadership Associates, and they were recommended for the award at that time. And Mr. Miller served as a city lobbyist until his passing in 2020 when there was COVID. And we were in court with the prior mayor, and there were opportunities at the state level, and the judge in the case called us in and challenged us to see if we could agree on something, and we actually did. And as a result of the court order, entered into this agreement with the current firm, which has been renewed on an annual basis. I think, my memory serves me correctly, I think the leadership consultants, the prior lobbyist was, I think they had 3 or 4 year contracts, or 3-year contracts that would come every 3 years. But this has been coming back every year. And so my recollection is that the council did not vote on any RFP on this council. It was discussed in a budget session that there could possibly be this type of deal happening. Of course, it's up to council what council wants to do, but that's the history of the matter. The price in this contract is the same price that was bid by Leadership Consultants back in 2004, and that was sort of, a lot of the firms were in that price range. Incidentally, I just did another RFP process with one of my other clients. It's a governmental authority, and it took 6 months because what they had to do first is develop the RFP. You don't just say, we want a lobbyist and put it out there. You have to develop what you want, and the qualification, the skills that you want, the objectives of the organization, put out the RFP. It has to be open for a period of time, and then qualified firms apply, and you could get 10 or 15 applications from all kinds of lobbying firms, big and small. And then you interview all of the applicants, and then after the interview process, they look at price, quality, you could look at communication issues, you could look at all those issues, and you come up with a recommendation. The committee then comes to council, and council will look at the recommendation, and then vote on a new contract at that point after it's been vetted by the committee. And that's by ordinance. The council can't do its own RFP. The council has to rely on the purchasing division and the administration to put together this RFP. Council will have input because council's the requesting department and the requesting agency. So council will have input on that, but ultimately the administration has to run the RFP process, assisting this department, and then ultimately bring whatever recommendation the committee has after interviewing everybody, and it's supposed to be a transparent process, right? And then the most qualified bidder, council will decide, and it's professional services, so it's not always price that's a factor, right? So you look at an organization with a $300 million budget, and one might be 5,000 cheaper or 10,000 cheaper, but one decision or one connection of a lobbyist could make a big difference that's way beyond that. So it's ultimately up to council.
So,
Is that helpful?
it was my question. So, with the example that you have given, it sounds as if you're saying that it took 6 months to get the process completed, or just 6 months to even, with the start of RFP and going back and forth with those who submitted?
Now, I was talking about another organization that I
Right,
work for
right.
that has, a purchasing department that, things are different, I'm not saying it should be the same here, but it was about 6 months from the time they put the RFP out to the time a decision was made, okay? And, interestingly, this happens. There was not agreement, and they had to work through about 2 months of disagreement on who that lobbyist was going to be. And this is normal. This is totally normal for an organization like this, with everybody bringing their different viewpoints to the table. But but, you know, you work through those things. So it was, my recollection is about 6 months from the time the RFP, what they call hit the street or hit the, you know, BidNet and all the places where it goes until a decision was made. Because they have to schedule the interviews and, you know, and also review the applications. There were some, I think there were some that get, you know, might get disqualified because they don't meet certain requirements. So there's a lot of work to be done there.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, that it should take, at least 6 months to
Yeah.
get this done, but not a year.
I can't speak to that, how long it would take. I can just tell you past experience.
I rest.
Mr. Boyke?
Madam Chair, as a matter for record, I researched my emails for the last 3 months. There are municipal reports that were sent to you. Councilman McGee, your name was omitted on one of them. There's also one that says City of Warren meetings, and where our lobbyist explains about the Mountain Road project and the Red Run drain, and everybody's name's on it. And that was May 4th,
And who was that from? Capital?
our lobbyist,
I put his name up here. and it's-
Mike Garavagia.
That's not our lobbyist.
Yes, it is.
They're part of the same firm.
He's
He's
the
just
owner.
part of the firm.
He's the owner of the firm. He's the leader of that firm.
Okay.
And those emails are there, and they talk about everything. And, like I said, Ms. McGee, Councilman McGee, one of those emails, your name was omitted, you know, but Hal is on every one of them. And they're up to date, we didn't get a June one yet, because this probably hasn't been written yet with the holiday, but I assume it'll be coming.
Anything further?
No, nothing further.
Okay.
President?
I'm going to call the question because we've belabored this. I'll make my comments. The municipal updates are from Mike and in general updates. They send one from Lansing that you read. I've not seen any that are specific to the city of Warren. I do remember the May 4th update, which is great. What I just asked for was just a monthly report and some accountability to taxpayers for what folks are doing in Lansing. I'm a no. I've made my opinion really clear. When I asked for feedback from a lot of our state reps, they didn't even know, and senators didn't even know that we had a lobbyist, and those are our greatest advocates in Lansing. So I'm a no. I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
No.
Ms. McGee? No. Angela is a no. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 12B, which is my item on boards and commissions. Motion to approve.
Support Lafferty.
Madam Chair.
Discussion, Ms. Moore.
Yeah. So in the last year and a half, as the administration is trying to get up to speed and filling commissions, certain things have come up and where we've realized that many of the commissions, their bylaws are totally out of date. They were written in some situations in the 60s. I would like to, number one, be provided a copy of the bylaws from every board and commission where they exist. And those should be kept in I would think, a central repository within the city. The city attorney's office, I would think, would have each of those commissions. Also, I think probably one of us could do that, or Mr. Schroeder, maybe the legal office, of the ordinance that covers each board or commission, and what the mission is, what its mandate is, what the requirements are. Another thing that's come up in the last couple of weeks is there are certain requirements on certain boards and commissions, and maybe Mr. Schroeder will address planning so that you understand it. So explain the Planning Enabling Act.
Well, with respect to the Planning Enabling Act, it describes the ability of the city to appoint certain individuals on the Planning Commission. So our charter references the Planning Commission, our ordinances reference the Planning Commission, and so does the Planning Enabling Act. But for example, we found out recently that the Planning Enabling Act says that you have to be a registered voter in order to be on the planning commission. So the requirements are governed by state law. Some other commissions, the requirements are governed by simply the ordinance that's created, or the charter, which requires you to be a registered voter. So the ones that would have state law implications would be planning, housing, zoning board of appeals, DDA, and Tifa. I might be missing some, but I think those are the main ones where there's a state law implication on how they're appointed. The rest, like beautification, and other commissions like that, the recommending bodies, the ones that are advisory in nature, they're governed by charter. But also, the charter requires that the clerk be the repository of all bylaws and governing documents. So the clerk's office should have that on file. And if that's not the case, I also believe our recent open government ordinance required these types of things to be kept and available to the public as well.
The other item to follow on with those requirements, I think we need to know what the requirement is for all the boards and commissions. And there should be, on all the applications, that question should be asked if someone is a registered voter. And we probably should check all of the boards and commissions now, especially the ones that Mr. Schroeder stated. And I'm sure Ms. Buff's office would check to see if whatever name we submit, that they are registered voters. So we just want to make sure we're in compliance with all of that. I really think we need to be diligent about getting these bylaws in order. There are some that the bylaws are in contradiction to the charter. And, I'm not criticizing people that are on commissions. I don't think they realize the force and effect of their bylaws, that they have to follow certain rules. They try to put things in to make their commission work, and maybe it's just not following the letter of the law that we should be following. So I don't know who we assign all this to. We don't have access to those documents. Maybe the administration can send out a request to all if we don't have the bylaws readily available in the clerk's office, maybe we can round them up somehow. And I think we need to have a group, maybe it's a committee or something that goes through and works on those bylaws, and we need to go maybe one by one. We had a meeting, I think it's almost a year ago, about the Housing Commission. And there was written in the 60s, and that definitely needs to be updated, and we are, we still have not declared what we are to the state, and that needs to be done. Mr. Schroeder?
No, I just would add, last week, Ms. Michaels has agreed to have a weekly meeting between the attorney's office and myself to discuss items that are outstanding for council that are legal in nature. I think this would fall under that. So we're going to have a weekly meeting at a specific time. Obviously, this week, Ms. Michaels and I are not going to meet, but hopefully starting next week or the following week, we're going to be discussing that. We can put this on that list and, have that discussion on how to get these things rolling.
I think that would be great.
Can you restate your motion?
My motion would be to have a copy of all of the bylaws from each of the boards or commissions, if one exists. The ordinance that forms the basis of the commission or board. If there is state law governing that board or commission, I would like to have that information. And, this is still on the subject, but I looked again on the website. For instance, we sent over ZBA, and we put the expiration dates and what the term is, and I think that the public should be able to see that information, that when we put them on the website, who the members are, it should see their expiration date. It is required by our ordinance, but that's not being followed. And when I looked last time, it was a couple weeks ago, but the expiration dates, because, a resident might say, I'm interested in the crime commission, and I see so-and-so's expiring, maybe that'll be an opening that I could get, or, something like that. But I just think for full transparency that we should have those. And it also is an alert to us, just like we've asked for a notification when contracts are about to expire. That lets us know too, because we're out and about in the public, And we might run into somebody like, wow, you'd be great with the, you know, the Animal Welfare Commission or beautification, or like Jonathan's wife should be on the beautification commission because she's got a beautiful yard. She's already won the awards. But I just think that's information that we should have. So that is my motion.
She's got the green.
Okay. I will call the question. If any, I should ask any other discussion. Okay, hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes?
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Rogan C. is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 12C, ordinance updates from Council Attorney Mr. Schroeder.
There are 4 ordinances.
I need a motion.
Oh,
and-
sorry.
Motion to approve.
Support Lafferty.
Thank you. Discussion, Mr. Schroeder.
Yes, I apologize. So there are 4 ordinances we're currently working on that council has voted on. The first one is the marijuana zoning ordinance. Councilman Boyke brought that forward to remove grow operations from the neighborhood through zoning restrictions. Again, we have drafts, we're ready to go. I know Mr. Mazzarelli is looking at it. I know we have Everett Murphy in zoning who's looking at it, and we are going to meet. The plan was to meet this week. Unfortunately, Ms. Michaels couldn't attend the meeting, so we're going to wait until she gets back soon, and we're going to convene that meeting and bring a draft back. It's very important because Mr. Boyke provided me with some case law and some ordinances from other communities where they have creatively been able to use their zoning ordinance to restrict these grows in the neighborhoods. In 2008, the voters, when medical marijuana was first promoted and for medical use, the idea was you could get a caregiver who grows the marijuana for you if you had a medical condition. And now these caregivers are almost like commercial grow farmers, and they take over residences, and they have dozens of plants growing, and when those plants flower, it creates an awful smell, and it's a total nuisance to the neighborhood. And for years, municipalities, like the city of Warren, had their hands tied. But now, due to some recent court rulings, we have the ability to come in and make some zoning restrictions to restrict this in the neighborhoods and hopefully eliminate it. So that's the whole idea behind that ordinance. We're working on it. So we have a work group created. We're gonna meet and bring that back. That's the top priority of all these ordinances. The second one is the council asked for a special event licensing and permitting ordinance, meaning when the city has special events, there's been some confusion over what's been perceived as maybe a lack of consistency over who has to pay, who doesn't, what are the insurance requirements. And so the idea is to create an ordinance where everyone's treated equally regardless of any group that you're supporting, your idea, your religion, your ethnicity. Any of those things shouldn't be considered, and that everyone's treated equally. We are conducting a survey of communities in the Metro Detroit area, and I have probably 10 or 15 different communities, and we're putting a chart together, and we're gonna come back and see what direction we wanna go in. The council did create a work group on that. Councilman McGee, you'll be on that work group. When we have those recommendations coming back, we'll probably set up a little Zoom meeting with our work group and go over those things and have a recommendation. The third one is also an old one, but it had been lingering because we didn't have an HR director. We now have an HR director, and it's the ethics ordinance amendment. And this happened last year. To remind council about the ethics ordinance, we had a situation where
Ms. Sanger, you can't take the call while we're in the meeting. Go ahead, Mr. Schroeder.
yes, I lost my train of thought. No, it's okay. Ethics ordinance, yes.
HR director.
The ethics ordinance, we now have an HR director, so I actually met with the HR director and Ms. Michaels briefly on this. The reason the HR director was involved is because when we discussed this last year, there had been a flurry of ethics complaints filed with the council office. A resident was making allegations about some members of the administration and some emails and some conduct that was occurring. And I came back to council and said, the council really doesn't have the jurisdiction to discipline mayor's employees under the ethics ordinance. You really don't have that jurisdiction, so we really couldn't take action. But then we looked further into this ordinance, and there really wasn't a formal complaint procedure. There weren't protections against someone filing a false complaint. There were a lot of sort of unanswered questions, and this ethics ordinance has been on the books since the mid-90s. So we are now creating a process where that you can, file a complaint. There will be standards of conduct. The HR director, Mr. Gajos, actually had developed in his prior municipality a code of conduct and an actual personnel manual for employees. It was actually pretty impressive. I think he did that as part of a graduate school project, but as a personnel manual, there's a code of conduct, and it had things in there that even Mayor Fouts didn't think of in terms of things you shouldn't do. And it was actually very good. And so we're looking at that. We're going to bring back a new code of conduct to propose, and that if there's an ethics complaint, it needs to be filed with the HR department. And as Mr. Lafferty suggested at that meeting a year ago, perhaps have an independent administrator from another county hired to, on a contractual basis, not a permanent employee, someone, if there's a serious enough complaint, to have them take a look and make a recommendation for that. So we had a really nice discussion about how to move this forward. One thing that I warned about a year ago, and I'll bring it up again, is, over the years, these ethics ordinances have been used to sort of, during election season, to create like an issue. We want to prevent that, and we want to make sure that if someone's filing a complaint, they get it notarized, it's under oath, and if they make a false allegation, they're on the hook for making a false allegation. So, and there's a way to do that. And also, finally, the civil service ordinance reform. Our civil service ordinance hasn't been updated since 1960s. Actually, the word human resources is not even in the Code of Ordinances. And so we're looking at wholesale reform, and this one I'm actually excited about. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. This one's pretty easy because there's a lot of reforms that could take place, and it's actually not complicated. We're not going to complicate it. Sometimes when you hear about reforms, it's a very complicated, long thing. This, we're not going to complicate. So we have these 4 things. We're working on them now. A lot of them we're waiting on Ms. Michaels to get back, and like I said earlier, we have a weekly meeting planned. Ms. Michaels and I got together and decided that with weekly communication and a to-do list, we can stay on top of things, make sure they get done, because it seems like sometimes council sits up here and votes on something, and it sends off, it goes in the mail, and then nobody's taking responsibility for bringing it back. So we decided this was a good way to, stay on top of these things so that council can actually get what it asked for. So that's the update.
Motion to receive and file. That is
So moved.
sufficient.
Support.
Let's see. I will call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 12D, Ms. McGee's item, task force and commissions.
Yes. I just.
Motion
want-
to
Need a motion and
approve.
support. Thank you.
Okay.
Support Lafferty.
Thank you, Mr. Lafferty. Discussion, Ms. McGee.
I just wanted to get an updated list of the action committees and task force that the city council is currently on. I don't know if that will be from Madam Secretary or Mary Camp, just a list, updated list. We have a list of commissions as of now that's online that everyone can see, but I wanted to get a list. If you can provide us with a complete list of those action committees and task force that we currently have.
Do you mean like the FOIA appeals? Oh, we do have a list. Everybody was provided that list.
Okay,
You should have it.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
We might have added 1 or 2, but it came with the commissions. But we'll get you a copy.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
We'll motion to receive and file that as well. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next item.
Next item is 12E, Mr. Noonan's item, Discussion Ray Civic Center. Motion to approve.
Support Lafferty.
Thank you, Mr. Lafferty.
Thank you.
Discussion, Mr. Noonan?
Okay, so, at our previous business meeting, we had some conversation about getting a feasibility study done for Warren Civic Center development. And in my mind, we should be sure to first decide what we want to have there before putting lots of money into deciding how feasible it would be to do that, because there are many different ways we could go. And as far as I know, the city council hasn't collectively voted on how we think the city should go. Maybe that would be a different process, but I'm bringing it up because though I believe that Councilors Moore and Lafferty are wonderful, that I don't really know where they're necessarily going with that, and I wanted to say that let's see, that's where lots of money into. It's all well and good to have plans for this area, and it isn't that part of the reason to have a downtown, and isn't that part of the reason to have a downtown development authority? It's already pretty much in the downtown development authority, I think. But I would like to see more of a discussion as to what our Warren City Council envisions. I believe we are lacking a consolidated vision at this time. When I was campaigning in 2023 and the Civic Center is in District 5, which I work to represent, the majority of the people I spoke to who had an opinion on the matter, and that was a lot of people, wanted it kept simple. Clean up the property and make it beautiful, for instance, with native plants, beautifying walking paths, and a few businesses to make it pleasant to socialize there, such as a coffee shop or an ice cream parlor, something like that. And other council members may want, for instance, a conference center with a big expensive hotel like the Lansing Center has. That certainly is an attraction. It's a draw to bring in people to our city. It could be great. Others, I've gone to Michigan Municipal League meetings where I saw what Troy was doing in other cities, some great developments. Also, SEMCOG went into that quite a lot. But I also saw very credible research that suggested that it's extremely difficult to get a strong downtown area built from scratch, which is basically what we have in the area around our Civic Center. There are a few businesses around to the sides, that's true. But I thought that we should work more on, not necessarily at this meeting, but possibly, what our collective vision was. If we're all unified, then probably the city can do whatever we come up with. That's and if we're not, it's gonna be hard to get anywhere. And then we also have to get citizens on board. So I'm not quite sure what the task force you decided you wanted to form last time that we all voted unanimously for was really for. But I was just thinking about it in the succeeding 2 weeks, and that's what I had to say about it. I yield.
Okay, next item.
Next item is 12F, Councilman Noonan, discussion raise city lobbyist.
Okay, I think I've already.
You need a motion and support.
Oh, I make a motion to decline to drop that subject because we've already discussed it, really.
Oh, I thought you were talking about a city lobbyist, not a council lobbyist. I asked you if you were clear, I thought you were
It was a separate thing?
differentiating.
Oh, no, I was working on
Okay.
the lobbyist. As far as I know, there would only be one lobbyist firm.
Does it have to be?
Let's have a dozen.
Do we want to discuss this item?
No,
No.
he wants,
Okay.
we'll remove
I
it.
yield.
We'll remove it.
Thank you. Next item.
Next item is 13A, which was tabled on June 24th. Proposed resolution providing public notice of intent to sell vacant tax reverted property at 2803 Wellington, Warren, Michigan, subject to combination with 20809 Wellington, approving sale following 30-day notice period and accepting grant of easement rights.
Okay, next item.
Next item is 13B, which was tabled to June, it was remained tabled on June 24th. Proposed resolution providing public notice of intent to sell 6 tax reverted properties at 23-184 Bierman, 7275 Dodge, 7279 Dodge, 6898 Lozier, 6889 Republic, and 6899 Republic.
Okay, next item.
Next item is C, request to approve an RFP panel for grant writing services and to appoint 1 representative to serve on this panel. I would make a motion to appoint Mr. Boyke.
I'll support that motion.
Mr. Boyke, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do.
Any other discussion or nominations?
Madam Chair, we need 10 of them.
10?
We need 10 grant writers.
Oh, yes.
At least.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tricky.
So, and just to qualify that, and I don't say that, I say that in jest, but the very fact that grant writing has been so underserved within the city administration, and it dates back to the last administration, we have not had enough people, enough attention to it, and there are hundreds of grants out there that we should be clamoring for while our neighboring municipalities are obtaining them at record speed. And we are simply not in competition. So that's the reason I say we need 10. We need 1, we need another, we need 2 more, we need 10. So go get them. Thank you, Mr. Boyke.
Mr. Boyke, is a part of that, I would make sure that there's a part of the scope, that there is grant identification, that they're both skilled in seeking like institutional support, like foundations, state, federal, across the board.
I would suspect that RFP would state all that.
I hope so, but you should flag it if it's
Correct.
not. Okay, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yep.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Rogan C is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is D, request for the engineering division to award bid and approve contract for city project WP 24-816 Mavis, Irvington, Sheridan, Adler Pavement Construction and Water Main Replacement, ITBW 1154, to Zuniga Cement Construction in an amount not to exceed $1,249,653.50, and authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute a contract, consideration, and adoption of a resolution.
So moved, Lafferty, with discussion.
Support anyone?
Support.
Support Ms. McGee. Discussion, Mr. Lafferty.
Through the chair to Ms. Gapshis. And just to preface this, Ms. Gapshis and I had a telephone conversation this morning. I had signaled my intent to suggest that we award the bid to the second bidder on the list, and we had a discussion around that. Ms. Gapshis, good evening.
Good evening.
Could you please summarize some of the items that we spoke about this morning?
Sure. Well,
Relative to Zuniga?
yes, to Zuniga, yes. So he's done several projects in the city that have been very good. Like I mentioned, Chicago Road west of Van Dyke. I also mentioned Miller Road. Bonner, there was an issue. He did take care of it. He paid for it himself for the grinding of that road. He's a very responsive contractor. He, when there's resident complaints, he answers. I don't have, there's always issues, small issues that rise up throughout every project, but overall, in general, he's done well on our projects for the city. And it's also $200,000 less than the second low bidder.
In comparison to the other contractors, similar situations, have those arisen with the other bidders on the list or others that have done work for the city?
Yeah, of course. There's always situations that arise through every project, but yeah, all these contractors that have bid are very qualified.
Okay. And how does your department specifically monitor the quality of the work being performed and the items that you find that, that they didn't and you had to have remedial work done? what does that process look like?
So we have a city inspector out on every construction site, and they monitor what happens daily basis. They do a report every day. We also have testing companies that test the base before, they test the ground before the sub-base goes down. They test the base, they test the concrete as it arrives. If the concrete's too hot, they turn trucks away back to the plant. So, yeah, besides our inspectors, we also have our testing firms that are out there
Okay.
daily.
And as a city engineer, you know, I'm placing my trust in you and your recommendation with the specifications that are written, where they're written, and that your team is enforcing the spec that is being laid down by the chosen contractor. I trust your judgment. I want to put, with given the history so far with Zuniga, putting them on notice that, you know, I'm not entirely comfortable, despite everything you've said, and again, I trust you. I remain skeptical about Zuniga's quality, and if, you know, going to the next bidder is the right route, then so be it. But if you are recommending that we go with Zuniga, that, you know, they be notified that City Council is not, well, at least this councilman is not sold on their commitment to quality, and that they should be put on notice that whether that's, you know, additional inspections or additional detail that your department is engaging with, I guess, to ensure that we're getting the quality that we expect, that the taxpayers are funding here, and that the next, you know, this job and others are going to be more heavily scrutinized than in the past to ensure that, you know, our trust with them is restored.
Yes.
That's really where I'm coming from, because my only other choice legislatively is to change the resolution and award the bid to the next highest bidder, overruling your recommendation.
Right, I understand. We will take extra precautions with this contract. Our inspectors will. And we always do with every project, it's not just
course.
this one, but yes.
I know you hold all of the contractors' feet to the fire, as you
Yes.
should.
Yes.
You know, you're the boss.
Mhm.
But again, Zuniga's had some issues, and, you know, in my professional line of work, I have, you know, dealt with many different contractors, and there are others that I've taken off the list. So if I can't do business with you any longer because you're not delivering to the quality that is expected by my customers.
Right, I don't see that. As I said before, the issue on Bunnert, he took care of it, paid for it. So if there are mistakes that are done, as long as the contractor does something about it and pays for it out of his own pocket, as far as I'm concerned, it passed the test afterwards. The Spalding situation, that was just the new concrete that was introduced. Zuniga does get concrete from Hercules, which has a type 2L cement mix. They get it from Turkey. That has less issues, seems to have less issues with Spalding. And so I don't really see any, I stick to my recommendation.
Understood. Madam Chair, I'll leave the recommendation to the decision of council. I've given my opinion. I'm not necessarily not in favor of awarding to Zuniga, but, you know, the conditions that I have for this is that we're putting them on notice that we're going to be watching ever more closely and ensuring that they're doing the job that they're supposed to be doing, because I do not want to hear additional complaints. That person may be in the audience this evening that has spoken about a particular road, and I want to ensure that, you know, the issues that we've encountered on Cosgrove and others with the Spalding, again, I understand it's a cement issue, not necessarily limited to one contractor, but this contractor seemed to have some difficulties. So, thank you, Ms. Gapchis, I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Madam Chair?
Ms. Moore.
I mean, this, Bunnert wasn't the first problem. We had problems up at the Ridgewood area in the last term, and I think we even put some things into the contract to protect us a little bit more because of some of the problems that happen. And it's great when someone's work isn't to the quality we expect, and they repair it, and they fix it, and they make it right. But when they do that, they're inconveniencing the businesses in some situations. Sometimes they have to close down, or they have hardly any customers coming because of road projects going on. Residents sometimes have to, you know, deal with moving their cars onto another street, and they're inconvenienced. So when there's a mistake, someone is inconvenienced. Even though it may be fixed, it extends the time that construction project is going on. So I'm hoping they can tighten up their quality a little bit. And, you know, I know them, they're nice people. I've known them for 20 years, and I want them to be successful. They're here, but they do have to up their quality a little. And I'm
Understood.
happy to know that you're going to be on it. I know you do a good job, but thank you very much.
Any other discussion? Mr. Boyke?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last council meeting, we had a discussion about the sewer caps, the round ones in the center of the street on Bunner.
Yes.
What is are they supposed to be level or below grade? The top level of the cement?
I mean, they're never exact. I
Oh,
mean, you
okay.
know, but any street you can
I
find.
researched it after the last council meeting because I wanted to get it firsthand. I went out there, and there are numerous round sewers caps in the center, not the curb drain,
Right.
that are low. And when I knocked on a door, talked to the people there, and they said, yeah, we sat on our porch, and all of a sudden you hear clang and making a lot of noise. Another resident pointed out to me, I got out of my car, and I'll show you my shoe because I stepped in this gook to seal it. And I went around and I looked at all the joint seals, and they were very sloppy. It seemed like they stopped doing it, and then you got a puddle. I am not for this company.
Yeah.
After listening to those residents, I can't. There's no way.
I understand. So there's still the 3-year warranty, so all these issues will be taken care of at the time of the 3-year warranty. And anything else that happens, any cracks or anything like that, so.
I mean,
But I'll send an inspector out again to recheck everything.
talk to the neighbors there,
Sure,
the residents there. They're the ones that are saying this. And they said, sit on my porch, listen.
yeah,
I mean, there's no reason to lie, you know.
sure. I understand.
And,
I will send
and
somebody
I've
out.
never seen so much, that black tar they use to joint seal, you know, and, you know, there's this gobs of it everywhere. That's it.
can have them
I'll
clean
yield
it up.
back.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing and seeing.
Madam
Yep.
Chair, I'm sorry, I
Go
just
ahead.
have one question. I'm not certain how the vote is going to come down here, so I have a clarifying question to Mr. Schroeder. If council disapproves the resolution as written, are we in a position to modify the resolution and award to the second bidder? Or would this matter go back to purchasing and require them to resubmit awarding the bid and rewriting the resolution?
Well, this doesn't come up that much. I believe council can award, council has the authority to make the award. So you don't necessarily have to deny this recommendation. You could approve the contract and change out the contractor. I don't know if that's going to work with this not to exceed amount. And I don't know if there's other conditions that might have to be negotiated. So ultimately, it's council's decision. If council believes that the second bidder is better, of course, that would be subject to the mayor's potential veto and review, as is any resolution of the council. I want to just check something in the purchasing ordinance, because this does not ever come up very often. Yeah, yeah.
So the second lowest bid, second highest, second
highest.
lowest, highest, doesn't necessarily mean if there were 10 bids that came in, that second, based on price alone, would have been put in the second spot, correct? Do you know what I'm saying? If ABC, CDE, EFG companies bid, but maybe not the lowest price, the second lowest, highest price, or I'm saying it wrong, but the second best price might not be the second best contractor, and that you wouldn't put them in the second spot. Does that, am I making sense, Mr. Knapp?
Because it's a more qualified bid.
So,
Qual-
right,
more
well,
qualified.
yeah, qualified. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean they're the second most qualified, they just have the second lowest bid, correct?
That's correct.
So,
All the ones that bid are qualified.
they were qualified.
Yes, I mean, yeah.
Equally-
They're the same, they're the bidders that bid on all the projects. that
Were-
were-
Are they equally qualified?
Well,
I mean, when when your group gets together, I'm sure in most RFPs, you're gonna get, a lot of times you get an outlier, right? Everybody bids $4 million, and then somebody else is doing it for $75,000. You know, I'm gonna get my brother-in-law to come in here with this pickup truck, and we got this handled. Well, you know they can't do it, even though they're the lowest price. I mean, do people bid like that you just know?
Not too often on road projects.
Okay.
No, that hardly ever happens.
Okay,
I know all the contractors that bid.
right, yeah. Go back.
Okay.
Go ahead.
After review, I believe the best course of action for council from a legal perspective would be, if you're interested in awarding it to another contractor due to the issues raised, that you deny this recommendation, and then it come back at the next meeting, due to the fact that there's some potential unforeseen circumstances by awarding this to the second bidder, and this would give you the opportunity to discuss this with the engineering division and possibly controller's office and others who would be involved, to make sure that we're, there's not some unforeseen circumstance. And the reason I say that is because, one of the exceptions to, like reconsideration is if it's a contract and the contractor is notified. If something came up Wednesday or Thursday, we may not be able to use reconsideration if we awarded this to the second bidder and there's some issue. I feel like that would be the best course of action to ensure that unforeseen circumstances aren't causing another legal problem I can't foresee at this moment, if that makes sense.
So, Mr. Lafferty, presently, there's a motion to approve this item.
Madam President, I'd like to ask a question before we
Okay,
finish
hold on one second.
discussion. Sure.
The motion is, you were the maker of the motion, Ms. Moore was the support, and it's to approve the item, just so everyone's clear. Mr. Noonan?
Yes. Ms. Gapshes, I don't have the bids and how they came in on in my packet today, but I do recall hearing you say that the next qualified bidder, the next lowest, was $200,000 more,
Yes.
and Zuniga has been on many, many contracts. And these projects are $1 million something each. Are they usually coming in about $200,000 lower?
Yeah, they're usually within 20%, I would say, of each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
But when you said Zuniga gets all the projects, I mean, I have a wide.
no, I didn't say they got all the
Okay.
projects. I just said they get a lot of projects,
Well,
which I'm not complaining about exactly. I'm just saying, if they're consistently coming in like 20% lower than other bidders, and
No, that's
like,
not 20%.
what?
Okay. No, said there's a 20% spread between low bidder and high bidder.
Yeah.
Usually.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll
Well,
get that one
yeah.
little off one.
If we choose to not go with Zuniga anymore, then I think it wouldn't just be this one contract that would be possibly impacted, but many contracts where the city benefits financially from the cost difference. Does that make sense? I mean, if they have 10 contracts and it's $200,000 difference on each one, then that would be $1 million, 20.
But
You know, it'd be a lot of
Last
money.
council meeting- Right, last council meeting, Zuniga was awarded another contract, which he's starting, Common, DeQuinder to Warner. So he was already awarded one last council meeting. This council meeting is this one, and next council meeting is another one that I'm gonna recommend that he gets an award, Sherwood, between 8 and Topher. And it may seem like he's getting a lot of these contracts, but I listed all my road projects. I have 13 road projects, and I have 8 contractors. That's a very good distribution. So it's not always one contractor that's getting these contracts. And I have a lot of bidders on every single one of my bids, which I'm
Okay.
very happy about, because that means that people want to bid in Warren, and they want to work in Warren.
So I appreciate that. And it seems like there are a lot of complaints against Zuniga. I hope that they will do better in the future. I'm thinking that I should vote for this because it might be a significant financial impact on the city to not. And I think in general, Craig Treppa, the purchasing manager, and all the departments are doing a good job reviewing these. It'd be nice to live in a perfect world.
Exactly.
And the things that Councilman Boyke was referring to sound horrible. So I certainly hope whoever needs to gets on top of those.
They're fixable, though. They
Real
can be
quick.
fixed, yeah.
They're fixable, but it might take a while, and I'm sorry for the inconvenience to anybody of someone going back and repairing it, but
There's
I'm
no
glad to
road
hear.
project that's perfect, and there's always gonna be something with a road project. And that's why we have that 3-year warranty, so we keep track of everything during the 3 years, and before the warranty ends, we have the contractor go out there, so it's like a punch list kind of for the warranty. They go out there and they fix everything.
I think it's a lot that people admit they were wrong and go back and correct themselves, so I'm in favor of that. I yield.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Mr.
I'd like to
Lafferty.
get the floor back. Thank you. And the reason I brought this up, and I didn't mean to belabor this, but it was to ensure that Ms. Gapshus understood that we expect the level of criticality in review of these projects to be increased, especially where Zuniga is involved. Not necessarily a denial. I asked Mr.
Right.
Schroeder a clarifying question because, as he stated, this doesn't come up very often, and what would be our best legislative course of action? Just to clarify, in that event, if that happened, that's not my intent. My intent is the contractor is put on notice. They understand that we're watching them a little bit more closely than we have in the past, perhaps. Ms. Gapshus is already looking at them closely. She's going to increase that acumen, and we're going to move forward. I do expect that, if Zuniga continues to have a poor result, that she will recommend them a lot less, if at all, for future projects. That's my expectation coming out of this vote.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to call the question. Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
No.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Rogan C. is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Audience, general.
Members of the audience who'd like to address City Council this evening may do so under this portion by filling out a general audience form located to the right side of the stage. There is only one person, Ms. Sanker, for audience, so if you want to speak, you need to get your form in. Mr. Watts, you're up. I just am giving Ms. Sanker a heads up. Usually she waits to the end. Mhm.
Gary Watts. So, wasn't going to talk about the Zuniga, but I'm disappointed. I think if the figures remind me that it's about $1 million a lane mile. That's $4 million we paid for Barn. If any of you 7 would like to see the dash cam video of the motorcycle crashing because he couldn't stop on the diamond ground pavement because it was too slick last fall, I'd love to show it to you. It's too big to send in an email. Seriously. And now we got the manhole problem, and she assures us that this is going to get checked. I wouldn't give them a dime's worth of business. This is ridiculous. They can't correct what they did, and now we're gonna give them another $1 million, and she says another contract coming up. They don't deserve anything. So, I haven't been at the mic for a while, so we gotta catch up. DDA audit during my time on council. Still haven't heard anything ruling from Lansing on what they're gonna do about that. Back in November, I FOIA'd all the records of the police commissioner appointment. Emails, documents, who was interviewed, who was denied interviews. I have not received anything yet. I've received emails telling me that I did get it, and I did not get it. I was told I received it at a council meeting, I didn't get it. And quite frankly, I don't know what the administration is hiding. I think I know what they're hiding, and I'm gonna call it if I don't get it. But I was hoping that maybe council would help us get those documents. I was out and about, received some complaints from residents and some Facebook posts I seen, so I decided to go look at it. 9 Mile and Van Dyke, nice homeless encampment set up on the McDonald's lawn. Really, guys? We're gonna put up with that when we're trying to build a downtown? We wanna clean the city up and we have a homeless encampment set up on McDonald's front lawn? I don't even know what's wrong with McDonald's they would allow that. Absolutely ridiculous. Something I brought up to Mr. Mazzarelli, unfortunately he left. He's seen the post, I had it on Facebook, but I know, Mr. Noonan's hot on this. We planted trees on Hayes, on county right away. One tree's fell down, one's dead. Grass is a foot long over there. All the medians in the city, all the trees have not been trimmed. There's suckers growing up. There's suckers growing up from the bottom of the tree that are higher than the trees. If we're gonna do this tree thing, maybe we should spend some time getting our own ship in order. And lastly, every meeting I've heard for I don't know how many months, poor Mr. Schroeder getting blasted. And I have to tell you, sitting on council with him for 4 years, watching the last year and a half, I don't know what the city would do without Mr. Schroeder. He's kept us out of a lot of trouble. When we had a city attorney that didn't have a clue what they were doing, he kept us out of trouble. And he kept everything on the right track. So Mr. Schroeder, keep doing the same great job you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Curtis Oshkosh, and then after that is Gloria Sanker.
Good evening, Council. Curtis Oshkosh. Most of you probably know who I am, but apparently Mr. Schroeder doesn't know who I am because he says that we couldn't be served. If you didn't know, the city's suing a church, Harvest Time Christian Church, that's been in our city for more than 3 decades. That's shameful. I don't know who authorized this, but this is the kind of lawyering that Mr. Schroeder does. Plunkett Cooney, boom, here's a lawsuit for Harvest Time. Plunkett Cooney, boom, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, by the way, they mailed these. It costs almost $14 a piece to mail this one. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. He's got to send us 24 copies of a lawsuit? That's what the city's paying for. The city of Warren, on behalf of Mr. Schroeder, suing Harvest Time Christian Church. Our little tree lover hugger over there should be pissed off about this because I know I'm a little bit irritated. Not one council member up there has come to my church. But falsehoods, misinformation, lies, you guys are full of them. Mr. Schroeder, he's a cyber bully. He uses his little minions and his little operatives. He's the little puppet master. They post stuff almost every day about me, how bad I am on the political page and all over the place. Now we're into lawfare. Look, this is what our city's paying for. 24 copies of a lawsuit, the same lawsuit. Why would our city attack a church that's been in this community for more than 3 decades, serving the food insecure, the needy, the most vulnerable among us? I went from hero to zero because the last mayor in August of 23 gave us a mayoral proclamation telling us how great we were. Thank you for more than 3 decades of faithful service to the city of Warren, to the most needy, the most indigent, the food insecure, the homeless.
You're at time.
In South Warren.
Thank you.
And this is where we're at.
You're at time. Thank you. Gloria Sanker is next, and then after Joel. Mr. Oshkosh, if you could please quietly depart and respectfully take a seat. Gloria, you're up. Mr. Oshkosh, please just take a seat. Thank you.
It was wonderful to celebrate our freedoms on the 4th of July. Freedom, though, can be stripped away from us. Even rights that were established for a long time that we often call precedents can be eliminated by an authority that has no belief in these rights. In our city, namely the mayor, taking away our prayer station and not permitting the National Day of Prayer to be celebrated, as was done for years with great success. Yes, freedoms can be denied. We are a government of the people and not the office of the mayor, as has been demonstrated. In our city, we see the mayor favor the atheists and the gay community. This is a major disappointment for the Christian community also, who should not be passed over. She's one-sided and not equal for all. On the 4th of July, we celebrated freedom and justice. Both are missing in Warren by a liberal mayor who wishes to exclude our Christian beliefs and traditions. Remember a few years ago, the Democratic Party at their national convention voted to take God out of their platform? Our mayor is a member of this party. Perhaps that is why we no longer have the prayer station and could not celebrate the National Day of Prayer. While embracing the gays and the atheists, she snubs the Christian tax-paying community. I believe every mayor in Warren has had Christian beliefs, or at least inclusive beliefs. This is the first time we had a mayor that boldly and blatantly snubbed the desires of the Christian residents. She is one-sided and not equal for all. But as Christians and tax-paying citizens, we will fight for equality and inclusion, as is our right as both citizens of a free country and tax-paying residents here in Warren. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Joel Vanderlinden.
Joel Vanderlinden, longtime Warren resident. Mr. Noonan, you have a house in Royal Oak. If you hire a contractor and he paints the front side red and then paints the back side fluorescent orange, would you hire that guy again? No. So when it comes to Zuniga, who is doing a half-hearted job, who is constantly screwing up, endangering the citizens of Warren, why would you vote him another contract? That's absolutely stupid. My real complaint today is to talk about the fire station, which is opening up at the end of the month. I read the things, and they had to go and take a look, and there's a little plaque on the wall that has Mayor Laurie Stone's name on it. It has this council's name on it. Now, I hold no one on this council, nothing against them, but most of you have done nothing for this fire station. It was voted on by the previous council. It was voted on and put forward by the previous mayor. If anyone should get any credit for that fire station, little Jimmy Fouts' name should be under mayor. It may be the only thing he did right in his 16 years. Gary Watts' name should be on there for all the hard work and dedication he put towards that. Mindy Moore, even Angela, Jonathan, even Eddie Kabazinski, God help me. These are the people that put forth the right steps, direction for that fire station. And what we're gonna get, we're gonna get the people that didn't work anything for it, mugging up the TV cameras, mugging up the cameras to get her photo ops and everything else, and she's done absolutely nothing. That's the most asinine thing I can think about. Her taking credit for that fire station is like Zuniga saying they did a good job. Mr. Boyke, I have had contact. Thank you.
10 seconds,
You have
Mr.
gone out of
Vanderlee.
your way for me and my family. Thank you. Have a blessed day. God bless America.
Thank you. That is the end of audience. Next item.
Next item is council response. Madam Chair?
Ms. Moore.
To address what Mr. Watts said about the FOIA request that you put in, about the details, the hiring of the police chief, police commissioner, excuse me. I believe our neighbors to the north who just hired a new police chief have that information on their website, or much of it, I've been told, who the candidates were and how what the process was. And I'm fully in favor of transparency, and I think we'll probably be discussing that again, because I think you're scheduling or asking for another FOIA appeals group. Yeah, we'll have you too. There was one other item I was going to talk about. No, something else. I'll think about it. Mr. Schroeder has, I'd like him to make a response to what Mr. Ostosh said about the lawsuit.
Sure, certainly. Just to remind council, we've heard about it. There was a lawsuit filed in Macomb County Circuit Court with respect to Harvest Time Christian Church. It's not necessarily suing the church for what it does on a daily basis, but in 2018, the city council approved the sale of a home at 11055 Jewett for the price of $1. That purchase agreement to sell this house for $1 was signed by Mr. Ostosh and the Harvest Time Christian Fellowship. There was a deal, though. There was a contract between the city and the purchaser here. And the contract said that Harvest Time will completely renovate the home and would use it for a shelter for one of their neediest clients while they help them get on their feet. This home setting will allow Harvest Time to help them get through school or find a job and get integrated into the community. The agreement also stated that the buyer will renovate the residential structure on the property and house a low-income family while it gains financial resources to sustain homeownership. The buyer will agree to keep the property maintained and be responsible for compliance with local ordinances. This was in 2018 or 2019. We are now 6 or so years after that. There was never any renovations done to the property. There's never been any certificate of occupancy granted by the city or building permits pulled. There have been 70 property maintenance violations at this location. 70 in the past 4 to 5 years. We have all the reports from Public Service and the police department. It was nice that Mr. Ostosh had people previously that would dismiss these tickets or cases, but the fact of the matter is, at this house, according to your city assessor, our city assessor, this house is worth somewhere between $95,000 and $100,000 on the open market. And we filed a lawsuit stating that there was a breach of contract, which there clearly, in my opinion as an attorney, a breach of contract here. We had photos from the home from last year where there's garbage, debris, and junk piled up in the home. We had testimony that there were dogs being harbored in this house. So none of these terms of this agreement were ever met. The city, when it gives away a house for $1, there has to be a public purpose. We've talked in the past that you can't just give away city property that's worth $100,000 to somebody and let them do what they want with it. There has to be a public purpose. And the public purpose here, which was a good one at the time, which is why the council voted unanimously in favor of this, was that this religious institution will take some of its needy clients, house them there, let them get on their feet. It was a great idea, okay? Unfortunately, 6 years later, there's been no intent by the purchaser to do any of this, and 70-plus property maintenance violations. I read through these reports, the photos. You would be absolutely disgusted to see what this property looks like. And the fact of the matter is, if we do nothing, they could turn around and sell this property, make a lot of money, and then the city got nothing for giving this property away for $1. And frankly, we were willing to stand up and bring this case. There were other law firms that didn't want to do it because they didn't want to take this constant abuse here and online and everywhere. I really don't care. I take pride in trying to do the right thing for my clients. And in this case, my client is actually the city of Warren, not the city council. So we're doing this on behalf of the taxpayers of Warren. And so it's really one of the most egregious cases I've seen of a breach of contract with respect to a property like this. We do have a lien on the property, so he can't sell that property. With respect to the documents he was showing you and is left on the floor, we hired a very reputable firm to serve him process. When you're sued, you get served by a server. It's a very reputable firm, and he was working with his spouse to avoid service. We filed an affidavit with the court that he was avoiding service. He's been sued many times before. He knows the drill. So he avoided service. So we filed a court hearing to get him served alternately because he was just going to not accept service. We weren't going to go interrupt his church service and serve him. We weren't going to come to the council meeting and serve him. We were going to be professional about it.
Mr. Oshkosh, you don't have the floor.
We were going to be professional about it. And so we went to court. Judge Servito was there. Apparently, Mr. Oshkosh appeared in court. I sent one of my associates to appear in court. Apparently, he showed up for the court hearing. And the court did grant the motion for alternate service, but the court ordered all of those versions of the lawsuit to be mailed to different locations to ensure that he was properly served. So I just wanted to make sure that council is advised and the public that that's the background to this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I could go back to what I forgot. I wanted to address what actually Mr. Vanderlinden said about the plaque on the fire station. I've gotten a lot of calls from active and retired firefighters that were particularly upset that Mr. Watts' name wasn't on there because we might not have ever had a fire station had it not. And in my opinion, the other last council should be on there as well, and the former mayor. There's no reason why they couldn't both been there. I haven't seen the plaque, but the DDA members should be there as well because they paid for it. And the steering committee members aren't even on there. You know, Gary Watts and Pat Green were on the steering committee, and their names aren't on there. And I think there's room for inclusion and recognition for everyone that contributed to this. I think it's a great thing that's happening, and I think that we could, if we need to, we put up 2 plaques. We find a place for them, or make this one bigger or whatever, but I think it should include all those people that contributed to this happening. And, when the mayor came in, groundbreaking took place almost immediately, then. Everything was in place except it was starting to be built. And I think everybody on this council, is on it because it was built during our term, but I think the other people that contributed should also be recognized for their contributions, and they should be part, because they are part of the history, and that foundation plaque states the history, and they should be recognized too. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Vanderlinden, please do not yell from the audience. Mr. Lafferty?
Thank you. And you mentioned the groundbreaking, Ms. Moore. The previous administration and all former council members were invited to the groundbreaking as a gesture of goodwill, and that foundation that, you know, we're all contributing members to it. We were all there together, and I think at least most of us were there together to celebrate that grand opening. It's short-sighted that the plaque does not include everyone's name, and I don't know if we need, the council office sends a letter to the mayor's office indicating that a new plaque be procured, but I think it's fair. As much as I disagreed with the previous administration, there is absolutely no reason that Mr. Fouts' name shouldn't be on there, along with all the previous members, just like you mentioned.
I mean, I will tell you that when we built City Hall, I used to drive through at night, because I was so proud of what we did. And everybody that was involved has that same feeling. And I see my name on that plaque. I get teary-eyed every time I see it, because I'm so proud of what we did. It was a big accomplishment. It was the biggest thing we've done here. And I think everybody should share in that recognition that contributed. Thank you.
Anything further? Okay, next item.
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned.